Oh, hi there. Welcome back to the Agostinho Zinga Show with your host, Agostinho Zinga, and this is episode number 696 of the Agostinho Zinga Show, and I hope this is finding you well wherever you may be. As I said, this is episode number 696 of the Agostinho Zinga Show, and I hope you are good wherever this pod may find you. I hope you are splendid. How am I? All good, all things considered. I cannot complain on my end. I really cannot complain. I cannot stress just how much of a game changer it's been that I've changed gyms. I've had, I've had some good times in my previous abode. It had its flaws, but for the most part, having to pay only like £20 a month for essentially the entirety of the leisure center, to use the gym, to use the swimming pool, which I never used, but you could get classes included in it, everything included in it. It's basically a local borough leisure center, and it was only like 20 quid a month, so it was perfect for me at that time. And of course, it was short distance from my home, so everything kind of, lined up really perfectly. But over time, I kind of got a bit bored of it. I think I needed a bit of a change of environment. And to be honest, with how nocturnal I am and my weird sleep schedule and just my daily routine sometimes, it's nice to have the ability to kind of go to a gym sometimes really early in the morning or really late at night. And for whatever reason, the leisure center that I used to go to was only open from 6 in the morning and closed at 9 or sometimes 8 p.m. So you were kind of limited at the times you could go if you went to go really early, like before 6, or if you went to go after 9. So I was really happy when we had a branch open up near where I live, where essentially it's a 24-hour gym and you have the ability to go in whenever, which is awesome. There's no person to talk to. It's all done via the QR code on your phone. You get a little pin code you could also use to kind of get in, and essentially it opens up the entire day for me to get a workout in, as long as I'm bloody awake. And I just basically got back from doing a pretty late workout around what time did I go? I think I went about 9 o'clock or something. No, sorry, I went about 8:30, left there at probably at 9:30, so I spent an hour in there, and it was splendid. The only the only kind of negative of it is that I'm not the only person who feels like this, I'm not the only person who feels like this. So clearly, there are other people in this world who clearly have the same desire to work out late at night. And it was absolutely ramming there. When I went at 8:30, when I left, by the time it was 9:30, it was getting even busier. It felt like a flipping nightclub. But it makes sense though, because it's a Monday. It was a Monday. It's the start of the week. Everybody needs to, start the week good. You kind of want to, get rid of all the flipping nonsense you've been consuming throughout the weekend and kind of put your best foot forward. So it made sense, but it was really surprising how busy it was. Yo, big up Lucid, appreciate
Go on,
you.
star. Content king.
Yo, big up Lucid. Hold on 1 second. I don't have the alert. But why is the alert box not showing on here? Big up you for the donation. Appreciate you, my friend. Why is it not showing? Oh, because it's underneath, that's why. So bear with me 1 second while I try and put this on top of this so that you can see it. And I'll replay it. Bear with me a second. There we go. So it should work now if I replay it. Let's see if I replay it. It should work. Come on, son. You're going to replay? There you go. Yes. So,
Go on, star. Content king.
Big up Lucid. Appreciate you. Thank you for the $5 donation, my friend. I really do appreciate that. Thank you. But yeah, man. The gym was busy. Everything was flipping crazy. And it was really insane, but I have to be honest, I'm really grateful that I have the ability to go to a gym where I can go and work out any day of the flipping, any time of the day without any stress, without any hassle, and without flipping worrying that I'm going to be, because I think the other reasons why I went to the other place, I'm pretty sure I had like an off-peak membership, so I could only go between the hours of like 6 a.m. And what was it? 6 a.m. and what? 6 a.m. and 4 p.m. I think. And basically after 4 p.m. I have to pay a £5 fee. So at least with this place, even though it's a bit more expensive per month, I think it's like £30 a month, I get the ability to go 24 hours. So I'm really happy about that. I can't complain about it. And I think because it's a bigger gym, even if it is packed, I don't know if you guys are used to this, because I'm not, but because it's a bigger gym, even if it is real busy, because there's just loads of equipment, eventually you're going to get on something. I think with a smaller leisure center that I was going to, They had a minimal amount of equipment. So if more people came in, they would legitimately hog everything because they're doing their workout. It's not a bad thing. So you have to wait a good 20 minutes, half an hour before you're able to use a machine, able to get some plates, able to get a barbell. But because this place is slightly bigger and they've got way more stuff, it doesn't matter how many people are in there. Everybody's like in different parts of their set, in their routine and whatnot. So most likely you'd only have to wait maximum of 10 minutes to get your shit, and it's all well and good. So I was happy with that. I was really, really, really happy with that. Next on the list here I want to talk about, over the weekend, it seems like for some reason, I'm not really too sure why, but usually at Berghain, the weekend after a big event, so last weekend was CSD, right, which is essentially Berlin Pride, and there was loads of really cool events, and Berghain had a really long kind of weekender plan there. Loads of other venues had really good parties, and essentially they had the flipping street fairs and floats on the streets and stuff. Like, it was really crazy. Nice little carnival atmosphere there to celebrate gay pride over there at flipping Berlin. So everything was good. So common knowledge would tell you that the week after a special event is usually the best time to go to Berghain, because it's usually empty and it's usually full of locals. So it's usually the best time to go to get a real kind of sense of what the club is about. Because it's one thing to go to a special event because you get a lot of more bang for your buck. You get to see loads of people on one big lineup and it's a special event. But sometimes it can be too busy and it's not enjoyable. But if you go the week after, it's usually perfect. So sometimes the week after New Year's Eve is great, and obviously the week after flipping Easter holidays is great also, or a bank holiday. For some reason, this past weekend wasn't like that. Even though it was a week after CSD, it sounds like, by all accounts, judging by the flipping Berghain community subreddit, it was absolutely rammed. So I don't know what happened, what was the deal, because I checked the lineup, and of course there was Oscar Mulero there. There was Maron playing and whatnot, Justin Perry and whatnot. There were some good names playing, but it wasn't like a crazy lineup that I think should have brought such a flipping roadblock of a it shouldn't be that much of a roadblock, I don't think, of a lineup. But for some reason, it brought everybody out, and the queues there were absolutely nutty, and people are getting all upset about it all over the subs. And there's a couple of stories here I want to talk about, or accounts from people, that I feel like need to be kind of highlighted on here, because I feel like in general people let other people get away with murder over there because they're so scared about they're so scared and worried that they won't get in. So I think people just need to kind of I don't know, not allow people to kind of bully them around there because they're worried that they're not going to get in, and kind of treat it like any other place really. But this is the lineup obviously for this past weekend, as you can see here, for the 29th of weekend. So you got some decent people playing. I was saying it was Maron's debut, but some people are saying that he played there already, but still I'm going to take it as Maron's debut, so big up him for playing there. Hopefully he smashed it. You got Justin Perry, Gaetano, Oscar Mulero, obviously people are a big fan of, Ogazun, who's doing some great stuff, and I think I've kind of discovered her via Hall. You got Keki Lomo, playing. Ryan Elliott, who I'm a big fan of, Paramida, of course, DJ Holographic, Palm Track. So it's a decent enough lineup, but not something that you would assume that would have caused a roadblock. That being said, the accounts from people on the Berghain subreddit are absolutely crazy. The first one I want to go through is the flipping toilet etiquette post that somebody highlighted here, right? Which I think really kind of speaks to the overall madness that occurred this past weekend and why people are so pissed off. So this post starts as follows: how the fuck can you take one toilet cubicle for 10 to 20 to 30 minutes plus? It's so disrespectful to the queuers and the whole system. And the line cutters are also fucking nuts. One time yesterday, this girl with red colored hair, a local you probably know, and her friend go up to her line. I say, what are you doing? Go wait like everybody else. Had waited 25 minutes by this point. I was getting upset over the whole situation, so I didn't have patience. They then say that their friends are in the toilets. When people leave the toilets, no one was there. And I said something like, hey, don't remember. And they quickly went into the toilet, and I was pushing up the door, and they both super aggressively kicked in the door so it closed. Like, who does that? Fucking assholes. So rude. My morning rant. So this person was, queuing in the toilets at Berghain, waiting to go there and actually do their business, not actually going there to do drugs or anything, and actually waiting to use the toilet. And everybody's kind of, taking up space in there. And this is something that happens quite often there, because for some reason they tend to close the panorama bar toilets pretty early. I'm not too sure why. Maybe because just to help out the flipping staff and make sure that they don't have to stay there all night or all morning, kind of cleaning up and shit. But once they close the pano toilets, it kind of becomes every man and woman for themselves, because there's only 2 toilets left. I think the ones on the Berghain main floor, and then of course the ones maybe downstairs right next to the cloakroom area, which are meant to be the flinter ones and shit, which are meant to be the ones where you should be only going for to use the toilet and the loo. But in this situation, I just think everybody has to take a bit of personal responsibility and accountability and be like, you know what, if you're in the queue and somebody tries to cut in line, especially in a toilet, that's just unacceptable. Unless it's somebody that legitimately needs to use it, you shouldn't let anybody cut in front of you in any queue, let alone a toilet queue. It's just not acceptable, especially when everybody's waiting, because for the most part, when you go to places like Berghain, everybody's pretty well behaved in the queue. They're pretty respectful. They hold the line, you know what I mean? They're not trying to cut in line and whatnot. So, and everybody's kind of waiting for their turn. So that person who legitimately feels like they need to cut in line, I don't think their desire to go into the toilet trumps anybody else's. So you shouldn't, in my opinion, be letting anybody go in front of you, no matter what they say, no matter about a friend or anything, it doesn't matter. The moment you step out of the toilet, in my opinion, unless the person's right there, because I've seen it happen before, where people are in the cubicle and they're texting probably their friends while they're in the cubicle and they're coming to meet them there. That's one thing. But if you leave the toilet and then you want to go get people to come in line with you or come in the cubicle, that's not on. Once you leave, you leave. Like, I'm not having that. And it's not a situation about, oh yeah, let's let that person's in there's my friend and they're not your friend. And like in this scenario, if you want to be kind and let them in there because you feel like their friends are in there, cool. But the moment that toilet door opened and you didn't see anybody, I would have ran in there myself. I would have ran in there so fast. I wouldn't have cared. I would have ran in there straight away and closed the door. You're not flipping going in there. And I think people, for whatever reason, are not afraid of let's say afraid of confrontation over there, which I understand, because you want to be chill, and Berlin isn't really about that time. I think the whole time I've been there over the past, I don't know, like 10 plus years and whatnot, I don't think I've seen a single fight on the dance floor, if anything. So clearly there is a reason why that is the case, and you don't want to upset the balance of things, cool, or the vibe or the ambiance. But surely there comes a point where you draw a line in the sand, you say, nah, this is where I don't play. And the part where I don't play personally, because I think I'm a pretty chill and cool guy, laid back when it comes to these type of things, is queues. I don't play with the queue cutting. Like, no one's cutting in front of me in the queue. It's just not going to happen. And then the next account here is even worse, right? This is outside. So it's one thing, maybe somebody cutting in line in the toilet queue, because, it's a toilet queue. It is what it is. Even if they do cut, you're going to get you're going to get in there eventually. Even if you have to wait half an hour, you're not going to wait 4 hours like you do in the queue. But from what I've been reading online, some people have been waiting up to 4 hours in the queue. This is a non-special event also, so it's fucking brutal. It's maybe a bit humid over there, so it's extra awful. And obviously you're nerve-wracking. It's nerve-wracking queue because, the flipping rejection rate is so high over there. So anyway, all that into account, look at this person's story, right? The scum of Berlin. I love this one. Today I stood in line for 6 hours. Stupid, I know, but I'm very stubborn and I couldn't let go of the sunk cost of already having queued for a couple of hours. I read reports in the updates thread that significant amount of people cut throughout the night. I befriended a bunch of people in the line early in the night. When we were closer to the snake, a smaller group went ahead of us to cut. I walked past and stepped in front of them and sternly and loudly told them everybody else waited X amount of hours in line and they needed to go back. They were shameless. They didn't cut us, but rather hung around and cut people who were a bit further behind us. That is really, really heinous behavior. You don't cut in front of me, you then go and cut in front of people behind. Then another group tried to cut, and when I confronted 2 of them, again loud enough to be heard by others, they said that they were joining their friends, and in response to my arguments that Berliners don't wait 5 hours in line, ask anyone or the bouncers. While I was preoccupied during this exchange, I was outnumbered and more of their group went around me and joined their friends. Once we got closer to the snake, I told a couple of people I'd met in to join me in cutting in front of the people who cut us. In the end, when the long string of us who met each other today got to the door, we were all denied very swiftly in burst fire. Imagine, imagine they did all of that to try and get back at the queue cutters, but then when they got to the front, they all got denied. Is that what I'm reading, right? I'm sure I'm reading it right. In the end, when when the long string of us who met each other today got to the door, we were all denied very swiftly in burst fire. We stayed divided, either queuing solo or in pairs. I can stomach waiting in line for 6 hours and being turned away. There is seemingly no foul play there, but I can't stand the scummy and despicable parasites I described above. If they cut people in plain sight because they feel so entitled and they are so too impatient for hedonistic escapades, I wonder what they do when no one is looking. Ooh, you're trying to equate line cutting to being a pedo or something. Like, this person needs to chill. In any case, as petty as it is, I wish suffering upon them. Mamma mia. And maybe if I wrote this after sleep and without adrenaline still rushing through me, I'd be more appropriately wish that they find peace instead. It was also disappointing to know that no one acted in solidarity with me. I was doing all the talking. People could have just stood next to or behind me, but no one offered their support, which was more discouraging. Anyways, thanks for listening to my rant. So imagine this person was really, really pissed off and frustrated, angry, furious. And of course, as per usual with these flipping hipsters over there at that club, they were just all flipping passive. They didn't want to flipping engage. They didn't want to say anything. They didn't want to upset the apple cart because they all were looking after number one. But in this effort, I think personally, in these situations, you're actually looking after each other if you actually help somebody. That's what you're actually doing, oddly enough. Because if you step in and say something, that's also going to help and limit the time that you have to wait. Personally, if it's me, I've never ever let anybody cut in front of me in a queue out there. I don't care. Like, I've got into actual arguments in that queue with people. Like, I'm just not gonna have it. So one time I got into an argument with a girl and she was talking mad shit, and then, you know, after a while she just got uncomfortable and left the queue. You know, you kind of have to swing that, you know, big black boy energy around sometimes. And then another time with some guys who were trying to cut in the queue, and I just didn't want to argue with them, so I just decided to just walk in front of them. I mean, they cut in front of me, so I just cut in front of them, and that was it. Just like a silent little protest, and that was basically it. But I think it's incredibly rude, and I also think it's incredibly unnecessary, because let's just say there is this unwritten rule. No one knows this because no one said it officially, but let's just say there's this unspoken rule, right? Unspoken, unwritten rule that if you're local, if you live there over there, right, and you're a regular, wherever it may be, that you have the luxury of cutting the queue, right? That's what they say. Like, they know you, they've seen you all the time, you live here, you shouldn't be queuing behind all these tourists. Cool. But then ask somebody, just go up to them. If you went up to a regular tourist and said, hey, me and my friends are regulars, we come here all the time, is it okay if we cut in front of you because, you know, we're here, we don't want to queue? Most people, in my opinion, 9 times out of 10 will say okay. But I think it's just the entitlement of cutting in line in front of somebody and feeling like you deserve to go in front of them is just the thing that really pisses me off. Because legitimately, if you ask me beforehand, more likely than not, I'm going to let you in front, especially if I'm, you know, a bit tooted up and whatnot. I've got a little bit of bubbly in me and whatnot. I'm probably in a good mood. I'm feeling good. I want to chat. I want to hang out and shit. I'm probably going to say yeah. And even if I'm not in a good mood, I'm probably going to say yeah anyway. Most people will. But it's just the fact that you take it upon yourselves to cut in front of people, not say sorry, not say excuse me, not ask permission, and just assume that you are allowed to flipping cut in front, you know, while people were waiting outside in the queue for ages. And it's, you know, so what were you doing in that time? Here I am in the queue waiting for 4 hours or whatnot to get into this fucking club, and you were doing what? You were out there having the fucking chicken Caesar salad. You were out there fucking scratching your pussy and while you were sleeping. And I have to stand in the queue, and you have the luxury of waking up when you want and clickety-clacketing along the fucking queue and getting there when you want. Nah, that's not cool. That's not cool in the slightest. So I really do have sympathy for people who kind of go through this, but I do think there is, you just need to stand up for yourself. You can't let these guys come in and kind of push you around and cut in line and think that they can, you know, do and say what they want because they have some sort of level of superiority. And again, it's a club. It's not that deep. If you don't get in, You can go to plenty of others in that city and go and have a good time, but you shouldn't stand there and accept any level of disrespect. That's just my point of view. I'm just not going to accept it in any slightest way possible. But I do appreciate the hellfire this person had, right? Where they legitimately felt like they would wish kind of, what they say? I wish only suffering upon them. I love this. I love this honesty in it, because sometimes you do feel like that way. When somebody gets in and you don't, you usually feel like that. You know what I mean? You just want them to fucking trip over and bust their teeth on the stairs as they're walking up or something. So I'm glad that they were honest and said it as they actually mean it. So big up that poster and big up everybody that went during the week. I hope you had your funs. Yo, big up the chat. Big up Uche. Nice to see you there. Big up Severa Design. Big up. Let's continue here. So, continuing on with the Berghain news, we also got this news regarding an exhibition going to be taking place, which I'll probably end up going out to see. It's kind of Web3, NFT, augmented reality looking like, but it's actually quite interesting because one of the bouncers there, who I've seen a couple of times, called Mischa, who everybody talks about on the subreddit and stuff, he takes pictures. So I didn't know that. I didn't know Mischa was a photographer, because everybody knows Sven, one of the main guys there, the guys with all the tattoos and the piercing on his face. He's obviously very well known for his photography, but I had no idea that Mischa was also a photographer too. And he's put together an exhibition, and this is courtesy of Beat Portal. It says NACHTS, which is, I guess, German for nights, and it's his name, Mischa Fan. How do you spell that? Mischa Fanghaenel, right? Courtesy of Beat Portal. It says the following: Arm, Ben Clock, Chris Liebling, Dixon, Devious1, Ellen Allen, Freddie K, Len Faki, Seth Troxler, and more lead the artistic lineup documented in limited edition techno scene portrait series by iconic Berghain photographer Mischa. Beatport has announced the arrival of Beatport.io, a new cultural driven marketplace for electronic music where artists and labels can share their music and art in a new collectible format. Okay, cool. So I guess Beatport.io is going to be their platform where they can sell NFTs and shit, right, on Beatport. That's going to be pretty interesting going forward, how that ends up developing. It says here, and put the chat back on screen, Beatport's first project showcases the multi-part art series called NACHTS, portraying Berlin's techno scene by photographer Mischa, who has been working as a bouncer for Berghain for over 10 years. The series was developed in collaboration with some of the underground Berlin techno scene's most highly regarded artists. In August 2023, the first limited edition drop of NACHTS series will be released, and a collaboration with DJ producer Figure label Len Faki, including a bonus track from his latest album Fusion, exclusively produced for the project. Further editions will include the musicians I mentioned: Ellen Allen, Freddie K, Gerd Jansen, Marcel Fengler, Norman Nodge, Patrick Mason. Pick up Patrick Mason, that's a big look for him. Roy Perez, Seth Troxler. NACHTS includes portraits of over 175 personalities. I wish I had my picture taken there. That would be fucking awesome, wouldn't you? See my fucking big head. Which, along with the music that exclusively produced for the purposes, formed the foundation of the immersive artworks that had generatively composed via AI models. In sync with the music's rhythm, Mischa's portraits degenerate into constructivist patterns morph into the figurative forms and images, ultimately converging into a comprehensive and awe-inspiring works depicting this rarely documented community, thereby forming an artistic document of the contemporary techno culture. Mischa explains his work. He says, the NACHTS project started during the first lockdown as an idea. If this is it, if no club in Berlin will ever open again, how are we going to preserve what we had? How are we going to memorialize this culture? In the event that everything was gone, how could I document the range of characters that came together in the scene? Looking at the different people and the shape of this culture, I understand why it's so important to have places in which everyone can simply come together and be themselves. That's why I want to share how beautiful life can be. Yeah, that seems really nice. I really like that. I can't wait to check it out. Len Faki adds, the force behind this project matched very well with some of my my own feelings during lockdowns. I could totally connect with it. I think this is such a nice idea to capture our world through the people it consists of, especially in a moment when we didn't know it would actually be like before again. I'm very honored to be a part of this. Mischa's accompanying portrait NACHTS will open as part of the up-and-coming Berlin Art Week in September the 14th, where collectors can use the NFT as a ticket to access. So really looking forward to that and checking it out when that does happen. So September 14th is when Berlin Art Week happens. So I'm definitely going to be checking it out, and hopefully it stays around for long, so it can be an exhibition that a lot of people who are living a bit further out can go and check. And there's more details here courtesy of Attack magazine. We got some pictures here that kind of show what you might see there going in. And then we've also got a handy update here courtesy of Brenda hashtag on flipping, Twitter. And unfortunately, she's not going to be opening her Twitter again anytime soon. I think Tabbygate kind of burned my girl Brenda hashtag, but still big up her for providing more information. She said when Berghain bouncer Mischa invites you to a private dinner and preview of his new exhibition, NACHTS, which features 175 portraits of Berlin techno scene, you go. So she took some pictures of the private view, I guess, members only type of event that happened, which looks pretty good. Little private dinner there. You see the cards there with his name. Next slide, you also see some portraits of the people there featured in and around the techno scene over there in Berlin. And then you also have this. Sorry about the sound, it kind of spooked me as well. I guess you have some video content here. And then the last slide is boom, boom, boom. A picture with some words on it on the screen, which you can't really see too tough. But yeah, I think it's probably the blurb that was on there. So looking forward to seeing this exhibition when it does launch myself anyway. Courtesy of Beatport.io. Got it here. Mischa, NACHTS, happening very, very soon during Berlin Art Week. So definitely go check it out if you're in around the town. Definitely go and check it out if you're in and around the town. And if you're not, I'm sure people will take pictures of it anyway, so you won't be that much of a bother, so you can see what's going on. So moving on to that one, I want to quickly mention this regarding the current conversation going around regarding Travis Scott's album UTOPIA. I think some people are still coming to grips with how underwhelming it is and how basically mid it is and how it probably didn't live up to expectation. And I think one of the best takes, that kind of back up some things I was speaking about with my little review that I mentioned in a previous podcast is this person on Twitter who'd kind of put it in much better ways than I could have put it. So this person's called Evan Rytlewski, right? Rytlewski. And this person is a writer, contributor for Pitchfork, and also has worked at places like Radio Milwaukee, WMSC, Shepherd's Express, and all the other places. So a journalist that kind of knows what they're talking about. And I feel they put, the whole, feeling and the kind of vibe around Travis Scott's album in a really good way. So they said the following. The new Travis Scott sounds amazing. It's exquisitely curated as ever, but the vacuous emptiness at its core, where a real person should be, is now so glaring it's almost unnerving. He creates these massive, expansive canvases and uses them to express literally nothing. It's honestly eerie how Scott manages to avoid conveying any actual thoughts, opinions, insights, or even really basic humanity. There's no worldwide view in the Scott verse, no perspective or lived experience. Every verse is an empty stream of predictive text. Scott has three defining qualities. One, he's his great ear. Two, his complete lack of personality. And three, I'm sorry, but this is running theme, his chilling disregard for his fan safety. And there are moments when these qualities play off each other in a very uncanny and unsettling ways. Scott never addresses the Astroworld tragedy on the album because he never addresses anything. But suggestions of a crowd crush are all over this song anyway. I just don't think he cares or even really thinks about it much at all. Just callous emptiness. And of course, they've got the intro here to the song featuring Tazs Touchdown, where he goes, yeah, turn it up to the maker, vibrator, roof shaker, of Quaker, annihilator. Verse 1, baby, please get off the gram. I like you better in the stands. I upgrade my only fan. I don't need a cam. This right here, my new modern jam. I'm on fire, the new burning man. Anyway, whenever the internet debates the possibility of an AI pop star, I always think we already have one. Basically, Travis Scott. Same mercenary focus on music as a pleasure center code sequence with no moral or human center to distract from that pursuit. Yo, this is brutal but so true. And I think I mentioned it in my review how his ability to be extremely safe, but I think in this sense it's basically devoid of a personality. It has been his strength. That's why he's been, before the Astro World tragedy, Travis Scott was probably one of the most brand friendly rappers out there. He doesn't really get in any drama. No baby mother stuff, no gang stuff, no fight stuff. Like he's pretty, below the radar kind of thing. So it kind of allows him to marry up with brands like McDonald's and whatnot, and there'd be no real issue. Was if they kind of married up with somebody else, there'll be all these things that come out of the woodwork and it'll go a bit crazy. But unfortunately, over the years, it seems like that emptiness that he has of his lack of personality is now hampering him at a stage of his career where he should be saying something. And it's not that, I think someone left me a comment saying that, oh, not every piece of music has to have a message behind it. No one's saying message. If you see what this person spoke about, Evan, I think they put it really well. It's not even about a message. It's more so just about all of these words here, right? It's honestly eerie how Scott manages to avoid conveying any actual thoughts, opinions, insights, or even real basic humanity. There's no worldview in Travis Scott's verse, and that's very true. It's not even the fact that he doesn't have anything to say, it's that there's just nothing there at all. Like, we don't know his perspective on anything. We know he likes bad bitches. We know he likes catching flights and stuff and raging. But do we even know what he likes to drink? Do we even know what drugs he likes? Do we know what food he's like? I don't know. Zero. We don't know jack shit about the guy. All we hear is him kind of moaning and groaning on these amazingly produced flipping records, which legitimately sound very movie-like, right? They sound like a soundtrack. That's what they actually sound like. But unfortunately, the rest of it, just nothing else there to really kind of grab you. And that's basically where he's at as an artist. And maybe this explains why there's these pictures going around of Travis allegedly back in the studio again. I think deep down, if he is an artist, which I still believe he is, even though, the output isn't the greatest, I'm pretty sure he knows deep down that he probably didn't come with, the work that he probably should have in terms of this album. That's why he's probably going back straight to a lab to try and rustle some new thing up again. But I just feel like overall, it's just a shame because it's a shame, but it's also a good thing because I think what it does do, it does make us appreciate the likes of the Tyler, the Creators, the likes of the the likes of the Kanye West, and maybe a few other people who actually do try. And even Playboy Carti is a good example, who they try to present something new. They come with a new sound, they come with a new aesthetic, they try and change and mix things up and actually take a risk. Because what you hear with this Travis Scott Utopia album is stuff that you could have probably heard in days gone by, in other albums, right? Days Before Road, this sort of stuff. It kind of sounds like an extension of that sort of stuff, like maybe an evolution or a sharpening or whatever it may be, but it's not really going anywhere. So it's interesting to see other people also kind of feeling the same. And I think the Travis fanboys are trying their best to kind of, rewrite the narrative, but I think even them can, even most of those guys can, agree that the album probably doesn't live up to even to their lofty expectations. And I think that is more than fair to kind of say. But then there was a really interesting review that I saw actually on Pitchfork that I want to read because I feel like the score was very accurate, even though people on social media are going crazy over it. So this is courtesy of Pitchfork, and again, Pitchfork reviews you have to take with a bit pinch of salt. But I thought this number was fairly accurate in terms of describing or kind of reviewing or surmising the kind of what level the kind of music is at. And this reviewer gave Travis Scott's Utopia 5.7. And they said the following, right? And I'm going to read it to you now, what this review says, because I thought it was fairly on point and kind of put into words what I've been thinking regarding Travis Scott and his album in general. So it said the following. In Circus Maximus, the 75-minute documentary brain poem that accompanies Travis Scott's Utopia, our hero Travis gets into a scuffle with a tentacle creature and headbangs into an open field. He then climbs a mountain to seek an audience with Rick Rubin to confess a deep-seated fear that he has been gnawing at his soul. Do I still have an ability to rage? This is Travis Scott's idea of getting vulnerable. Honestly, we haven't seen this movie yet, but they've seen it already. But he's got this movie that I think he made in collaboration with, was it Spike Jonze? Who was it with? I forgot who it was with. It's made with somebody in collaboration, right? Really esteemed director. And the thing that he did was get Rick Rubin involved, who is fucking, it's a tired trope to pull out Rick Rubin to get introspective and shit, right? The fucking world champion of grifters, right? Fucking Rick Rubin. And now the question that's kind of been gnawing away at his soul is, does he have the ability to still rage? That's the thing that's keeping him up at night. I think it's hilarious because for the most part, it's good to see, right? Because what it does do is that it does kind of agree with our initial thoughts. You remember when the Astroworld tragedy happened, right? When the Astro tragedy happened, right? We all kind of saw the apology that Travis Scott did, where he was kind of rubbing his face and trying his best to look like he was sad, but he didn't really give a fuck. And we all immediately felt it, right? We could all immediately tell this guy wasn't being sincere. He really didn't give a fuck what happened to those kids at his festival. He didn't really give a shit that they died. It kind of is what it is in his head. And he just wanted to move on, get back to doing music. And I think the rumors at the time was that he actually went to do the show the next day. But obviously that got, cancelled and whatnot. And I think we saw it. We kind of felt it. So I think it's fairly evident. It's fairly interesting to see that all those kind of feelings that we had, those gut instincts that we had, are now being proven to be true. Because clearly Travis is like maybe on the spectrum. I'm not too sure, or just one of those guys that's just like doesn't really feel much outside of the music when it's in the studio. So anyway, let's do the following. It continues. This is Travis' idea of getting vulnerable. Since he released his inescapable album, I love how snidey Pitchfork writers are. Every line is very snidey, very snarky. Everything is fucking amazing. Since he released his inescapable album Astroworld 5 years ago, Travis has fully embraced this persona as the ultimate hooligan, even after tragedy put that character under fire. In 2021, while he performed one of his raucous sets at his hometown Astroworld Festival in Houston, 10 people were killed and thousands more were injured during the sudden crowd crush. While Travis remains Travis remains a defendant in several civil suits, he was not held criminally responsible for the incident and has seemingly moved on, or pretended it never happened. Spoiler alert. He still does have the ability to rage. And to get that across here in Utopia, a big empty rap blockbuster that lives in the shadows of other big, less empty rap blockbusters. Specifically those by Kanye West. That probably won't be a surprise to anyone who's ever heard any songs by Travis Scott, who's been a Ye disciple since the days of getting some production credits on Yeezus a decade ago. But Utopia veers from the heavy inspiration into Travis pretty much trying to single white female him. Jesus Christ, this review. Well, that's impossible, because even with the moody auto-tune wobbling of 808 Heartbreaks, the Grand Maestro vibes of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, the icy electro synths of Yeezus, and the famous friend Appaloosa of The Life of Pablo, Travis is missing arguably the most important aspect of Kanye. Even at his most wild, most narcissistic, most famous, Kanye still felt shit, right? Still felt shit. Raw, no matter how much he tinkered, layered, or absorbed, unafraid to look like a fool, or at least convinced that he was so cool that it didn't matter if he did. In the Circus Maximus film, the visuals are at times so pristine and polished that Travis looks like a cyborg. Utopia does sound a lot like that too. See, that guy said as well that Travis feels like an AI, and this guy's basically saying Travis comes across like a robot in the movie. Fucking hell. Sometimes the marquee features and shiny productions are good at masking the fact that Travis is an emotional black hole on the mic. The digitized lilt of a blonde-inspired fogginess of my eyes sound nice enough, especially when sprinkled with dreamy riffing from Sampha and Justin Vernon. The rage beat on Fiend is played out, but Playboy Carti's new vocal trick sounding like he has bronchitis soaks up the attention and just feels like Travis does a bunch of ad-libbing. That's unfair though. I think that flipping what's it called? I think that Playboy Carti verse on Fiend's amazing. Hearing his deep voice is pretty cool. It kind of reminds me of that clip that's going viral a little bit of that gay guy who says he's a Crip. And he's trying to put on his like thug voice, but it's just his voice, but just a little bit with a little bit of bass in it. It kind of reminds me of that sort of thing. Or like when sometimes, you see trans people on the street like get into an argument with somebody and they'll have their femme voice and somebody will say something shit, they'll be like, they'll get into their deep voice. That's what it kind of felt like. So big up Playboy Carti for doing that. Future is a strong over the orchestral beat of telekinesis, and I like when he raps, counting so much money till my skin peel. SZA is here too, sounding good and sounding like she's collecting a check. But again, at his peak, Kanye was able to draw show-stopping features out of collaborators. These are nothing more than a fleeting thrills. Travis needs these knockout guest appearances because nobody expects him to carry an album by himself. The bar for him as a rapper is already low. He's here for the vibes, not the skill. Yeah, do you guys remember Travis Scott's Double XL? People shouldn't be surprised at him saying nothing. Was it Double XL? Like he remember he had a freestyle when he did Double XL. He's wearing like this jumper. It's like turtleneck jumper. He's got like the jumper thing over his face, and it's got like all holes on it and shit. And he's just like, I don't know what he's saying. He's just rambling some shit. That should have given us an indication of what Travis's rapping ability is like. I'm pretty sure he's a Double XL rapper, cypher and shit. He's just horrible. It's not even horrible. It's just there's nothing there. You know what I mean? It's just all vibes. But obviously he's skating on the beat, but it's just nothing is being said actually. And I think now, unfortunately, we're living in the era where people do want you to say something, even if it's toxic, even if it's destructive, even if it's harmful. Give us something, you know? It continues. But it doesn't sound like he's leveled up because his life is so different now than when he tries to act like it's not. He comes off as a fake as hell. His romantic breakups and his reconciliations have been endless tabloid fodder. His future as a bankable mainstream act seemed uncertain after the Astroworld disaster. That's not asking him to suddenly be a lyricist, but one of the basic attributes we expect from rappers is to be real with us, or at least convince us that they're not purely bullshitting. Mild edginess like I got yay over Biden on Schizo, or blank mosh pit ready tracks such as Topia Twins just come off as deflections. It's scared rapping, hiding behind the flipping spectacle. Rah, this rapper's calling Travis Scott scary. Imagine that. This writer's calling Travis Scott scary. It continues. Even more so than his past projects, UTOPIA has a rapid beat switch-ups, stack credits, and cinematic songs for no other reason than he thinks that is what signals an event album. Modern Jam features some embarrassingly uninspired stripped-down rapping by Travis. But the mildly funky beat is co-produced by Guy Manuel de Homan Cristo of Daft Punk. Meltdown is Diet Sicko Mode. Oh, don't say that. I love Meltdown. I thought Drake's verse was fucking bad, boy. But oh man, Drake dissed Pharrell new office job. Okay, it was kind of funny. On Delestro's echoes, the shimmering and buffering noise gets topped with Beyonce's wails. Never mind that she's going through the motions like Robert Downing Jr. gets appearance in minor Marvel movies. This Beyonce feature is about as deep as it nods to its Houston roots. And still it's Beyonce. Rap is such a regional culture, even for the megastars. Whether it's Drake with Toronto, or Kendrick with LA, or a little bit with Atlanta, the connection to their home grounds grounds them as they become international superstars. Travis still had that of the Astroworld, where the chopped and screwed Big Hawk sample of Sicko Mode or the homage to the RIP Screw went along in making him feel like a real person. Utopia's a global ambition, sacrifice that little bit of realness he had left. I'm not really sure about that point. So it's not even surprising that K-pop exists, a diabolically stupid plan to create the most popular song in the world. You have Travis, The Weeknd, and Bad Bunny fusing their crones together over a sourceless Afro-pop rhythm on a track where the title supposedly isn't a reference to the Korean pop genre or to the game to gain extra clicks, but has the same effect. That's a good point, actually. I didn't think about that. Why is it called K-pop when it isn't a K-pop song? It's actually an Afrobeat song. An Afro-pop song. The algorithm will love it. Congrats on the hit song. Surprised he didn't round out the chart chasing by hitting up Morgan Wallen. Yeah, that would have been fucking gross, isn't it? If you had a Morgan Wallen song to end it. But to be fair though, K-pop I didn't like as a single, but in sequence of the album it does sound pretty good. It didn't sound good on its own. I thought it sounded trash, but in sequence, when you listen to the whole album, it does sound actually pretty decent. For all this blinding star power, every moment on UTOPIA should feel seismic, or at the very least impactful. Think of Quavo's melodic fantasia on Oh My This Side, or Nav's ice cold breeziness on Biebs in the Trap, or even Drake's Sicko Mode, verses which basically implanted into your brain permanently after one listen. Now without those, all he has to back himself up is production. Even that is so safe. He waters down the cutting edge sounds of the past and in the process flattens his southernness to the point where he feels like he's from nowhere. Ooh, hoo, hoo. God, this review is scathing. To Travis's credit, rap needs blockbusters too. Many of the genre's great albums of the year are completely absorbed in regional moments, and they aren't even cutting through the noise. See Sexy Red's Hood Hottest Prince, Sexy Red's Hood Hottest Princess, and V's Ganger. But it also would be nice to have a watercolor moment. Sorry, why can't I speak today? But it also would be nice to have a watercolor monocultural event, a conversation piece that you can talk about with anyone, everywhere. We need those albums that end all the widespread fear mongering that rap is a downward spiral just because it's struggling to get a number one hit this year. Rap albums that become so ubiquitous in pop culture that when you look back at the moment in life, it will be inextricable. There are fewer moments like this than in art in general anymore, but to get there, the hollow spectacle of utopia is not enough. You want something to grab onto beyond that, an idea, a feeling, honesty. You want music with a vision that can make you feel like your world or the world is different, even for a moment. Man, this is a fucking scathing review. Pretty brutal, to be fair. If I'm in Travis' team, I don't want him to read this because this might hurt your feelings. But I agree with a lot of what this guy said. I can't deny it. I do agree with a lot of it. I think there was some snarky bits that probably did need to be included in there. But I think overall, it is a good thing, because what it does do, it does say that we all hold Travis up on a high pedestal. We know we know he can do much better than this, and we were all kind of collectively disappointed, in culture, because we all were waiting for this album to maybe turn up on, during summer and shit, have it banging in the background during barbecue season and shit. But unfortunately, it's not really an album that people are going to be playing back to front anytime soon. Maybe there's a bunch of tracks you can play in a gym. Like, I'm thinking now to put in a gym playlist, maybe, a good sort of like mix of tunes, maybe Meltdown, maybe Sirens, Meltdown and Fiend. Those are some pretty good tunes back to back to put in the flipping playlist if you're going to go to the gym and shit. And maybe even maybe you go for the first 10. I'd go maybe first 10 records you could probably get through with putting those in the flipping playlist, but the rest of it isn't that great. So I do really agree with this writer. Big up Alphonse Pierre for putting this review together. Very well done. Snarky bits aside, which is probably par of course when it comes to writing reviews for Pitchfork. I feel like he really did surmise some of my feelings in a really eloquent way, and kind of was brutally honest in terms of where Travis is in his current position going forward, and some of the character flaws that we've seen in him in recent years. So that was great to see from him. Big up him. What people are saying here in the chat: T Scott is a bad person, but these critics are just being haters on the music. Yeah, but I think it's good to be haters on the music. I think we do need more of that. We do need we do need more criticism in that way. We do need more flipping we do need it, to be honest. Art is a bit, it's a bit weird in that respect. We kind of do need it, to be fair. What do we say? I expect a snarky review from anybody called Alfonso. Is it Alfonso? How do you pronounce that? Would you pronounce that Alfonzi or Alfonso, right? Or Alfonzi? I'm not too sure. But either way, that person was not happy with Travis. Anyway, moving on from that one, we've got this. This is fucking wild, right? Because I'm really curious to know what's going on with this new trend on social media, especially with the ladies, where they're posting up screenshots of their conversations with random men on dating sites, or on dating apps, sorry. And I guess this one in particular probably is Hinge. I've never used it, or Tinder and shit like that, right? People are using all this stuff, right, to kind of post up their weird conversations with guys and have them up on social. And most of the reason why they're doing it feels like it's to kind of dunk on the guy, to kind of be like, oh, haha, look how dumb and stupid this guy is, right? It's really strange. I don't really understand what this is all about. And one example of this is this person here who posted this thread, right? And she said the following in her caption: I asked a guy for his most controversial opinion, and I ... So she asked the guy for his controversial opinion, and the guy texted her back on Hinge and said the following: I don't care about the writer's strike. I think there are way too many pseudo-intellectual wannabe artists in Hollywood. 99% of films and TV shows are trash, and it's ultimately killing the industry anyway. Find another profession. Woo! And full disclosure, I actually majored in screenwriting and directing in college. So in my opinion, maybe because I'm, listening to too many flipping red-pilled people, or I'm a little bit edgy in my own way, but I think this is a pretty lukewarm take. I think there are many people out there who have similar sort of takes when it comes to the writer's strike and, actor strike and whatnot. I think we could all agree, regardless of what genre of stuff we'd like to watch, whether it's sci-fi, whether it's drama, whether it's thrillers, whether it's fucking reality TV. I think we can all collectively agree that the quality of all our shows has somewhat decreased over the last, 2 decades or so, right? There is a lot of like ideologically possessed shows out there, loads of fucking agendas being pushed in our shows, loads of fucking, just nonsense that doesn't need to be there. And good writing has definitely fallen by the wayside. Maybe we don't have enough good writers. Maybe the studios and the production companies aren't basically rewarding good writers for good work. Who knows? But regardless, we can all say the quality overall has kind of really died. So most of us can say that. So most of us can also sympathize with the actors who are striking and the directors and the writers and stuff, because we know that these streaming companies are, fucking them over. We know the streaming companies are not giving them good splits. They're not giving them residuals and shit. And that needs to change. Much like Tim Dillon, I think I agree with Tim Dillon. Tim Dillon basically says the AI thing isn't going to go back, right? Like they're not going to put the AI genie back in a bottle anytime soon. That's fair. But they should find a way to compensate the people who write and act in these things, well. At the moment, they're not being compensated well, and that needs to kind of be worked out with the streaming companies. But with that being said, we could also be honest and say these guys, writers and actors, they don't really have a lot of wiggle room, these artists that work there, right? Because the work is so bad at the moment from them. You don't really have a lot of, you don't really have a point of position that you can kind of argue from where you can say you're indispensable. Because I think most of us can agree that a pretty decent prompts on an AI, could probably put together a pretty decent collection of shows that could rival what we kind of have at the moment. So it kind of seems like a lot of the protest, a lot of the striking is probably going to fall on deaf ears eventually, and they're all going to probably just have to accept what they're given and kind of go from there. So when I see this point, I don't really see anything too crazy, but I just find it insane, number one, in my opinion, that you ask somebody a question. You ask them, hey, what's your most controversial opinion? And then you get surprised when they tell you a controversial opinion. And then you get so surprised that you want to share that controversial opinion to your, thousands of followers on social media in an effort to dunk on that person. Fair enough, she was fair and nice enough to not include the person's picture or their face or their fucking, name and shit, and, preserve their privacy. But I just think it's quite insane that this has become like a trend now. This whole dunking on strangers type of thing to make yourself feel better. And obviously the replies have been, absolutely sucking her off. But I think all of it is absolutely crazy. Exactly. The guy I follow here said, you asked. Another person said, the real red flag is asking people for their most controversial opinions in the first place so you can judge them for how controversial it is. Another person says, what a loser. So some people are clearly getting at her, but this person here said, tell me at least he didn't know you were a screenwriter when he said this. He did not. Did you just dump that guy, yell at that guy? And she says here, in her excellent writing, right, being a writer, oh, I was, she says, in my response, what you say? Let's just say firm. What kind of sentence is that? You're meant to be a writer and you say, oh, I was, comma, in my response, comma, let's just say ... firm. That sounds absolutely insane. But yeah, I don't understand these people. I think this behavior is unhinged. I want us to get to a place in society where we just stop sharing private DMs and messages with people that we have, like in general with the public, unless it has to do with, the flipping conviction of a crime or something, or in some respect, then you shouldn't be sharing any private correspondence with anybody on social media. I just think it's incredibly, in poor taste. It's completely classless. And if anything, unless the screenshot really does help to maybe clarify your position on a certain thing, it always, I feel like, ends up blowing back on the person that's sharing it. More often than not, it ends up making you look like a worse person. So just stop and leave people alone. respect their privacy. If you don't like them, you need to just block them, unlink them, whatever you have to do on Hinge and shit. But you don't need to be posting up their flipping replies on social media for people, to mock them and stuff. Because fair enough, his picture's not there. We don't know what his name is, but that guy still has feelings. He's still not going to be feeling too good about himself, hearing that the internet is flipping been dunking on him and making it seem like he's some sort of, conservative crazy guy because he thinks the flipping Hollywood actors and stuff are maybe not worth their flipping money that they're asking for. It's absolutely crazy, man. I think it's all really, really strange to me personally. I absolutely hate it. I absolutely hate it, really do. But yeah, what can I do? What can you do? People here do whatever they want to do. They want to do what they want to do. Moving on from that one, we have this to talk about here quickly. This is courtesy of Lil Yachty's podcast called A Safe Place, and it features an interview with Cenat. Now, I wanted to play this clip in particular because it features these guys talking about tricking. And I feel like tricking is a weird phenomenon that's kind of gained popularity nowadays with the kids coming up, because I feel like a lot of these young boys, especially these young men, have now become way more successful, way more rich at a very early age. So they have the ability to do things that maybe they shouldn't be doing at their age, right? In a weird way. It's kind of strange. They have access to things that they probably should be having access to much later in their life. So with that being said, and social media and access to people, it makes a lot of sense why these guys with a lot of disposable income would be open to the idea of like flying strangers across the country to come and visit them. But I've legitimately always thought it's unhinged. And I've always thought it was unhinged from the moment I heard the whole tricking thing from Joe Budden. When I used to listen to the Joe Budden podcast with the original crew with Rory O'Mall on there was always a common running joke that Joe was a trick. Joe would always kind of fly girls out. He'd take them places, all this sort of stuff. He'd take them on holiday as first dates or second dates. Just this weird behavior. And I never understood it in my head. I could never understand why somebody would want to invite a stranger on holiday as a date. As a guy. Number two, I couldn't get in my head around why a woman would accept to go on a date like that. Because if anything, if women in general are afraid of being left alone with random dudes that they just met off the internet, how much more going on holiday with somebody you don't really know, where you have to kind of be with them and them alone in a room or whatever it may be. It just seems like such a recipe for disaster. It doesn't make any complete sense. But clearly it's a thing that people do. People do all the time because they want to spend time with beautiful men, with beautiful women. Happens all the time. Me personally, having grown up the way I've grown up, it's just never been an option to try and win somebody's love or affection for you with money. I guess because I had the ability to maybe grow up in an area where, you were kind of rewarded and credited and looked as like a bad boy if you had the ability to kind of draw and pull girls with no money in your pocket. It was actually looked at as a point of pride. So to then be the guy that's suddenly now trying to use the money I have to try and get people to like me is just wild. I could never see that happening. But then again, I don't have Cenat and Lil Yachty money. Maybe if I had Cenat and Lil Yachty money, my whole brain would change and I'd be open to that sort of stuff. Yo, big up Abby Martinez.
You're dim, I gotta go to bed.
Yo, big up. No problem, brother. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you anyway. Thank you for the 199 super chat, my friend. Thank you so much, Abby Martinez. Have a good night, my friend. But yeah, maybe it would change if I did have the money that these guys have. But let's just play the clip anyway, because I think this is a very interesting clip to kind of see the mind of these young kids and how they're kind of thinking about relationships and hookups and meets and stuff, because I can't ever in my wildest dreams think that going to meet, taking a stranger out on a holiday is a good way to kind of get to know somebody. It just seems fucking insane. So let's take the chat off the screen and let's play the video, because I think this is a pretty interesting insight into how these kids are thinking nowadays.
No.
Yeah.
But it was definitely worth it though.
Well, let's pivot. I want to get into some shit. I'm curious.
Okay, talk to me.
You be tricking?
Do I be tricking?
You be tricking?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
Oh wait, but remember,
Absolutely
remember
not.
though. You could.
No, we could get into this.
And listen. I know the first thing to do is just to say, I get it. That's the cool thing. But you can be honest here, bro.
No, I don't. I know nobody is seeing this shit.
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly.
Nobody's fucking seeing this shit.
See, it's talking.
Between us three, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Listen, Absolutely not. And let me tell you why.
I'm here.
Let me ask you a question real quick.
Okay.
Is getting an Uber or going out to eat tricking?
What kind of eat?
Yeah, the
I
eating.
mean, it
can
don't matter.
get there.
Restaurant. Just like
I
okay, let's do steak, like just steakhouse.
Okay, like a steakhouse.
Is that going out to eat?
No, that's a date.
Nah,
Yeah, I
but
don't
what if
think
she
it is.
gets like the gold steak?
She getting like
No, wait, hold on.
Gold steak. She come
Wait,
gold
wait.
steak. I ain't gonna lie, bro. That's like,
like-
I be so. Like, you
Hey, what
ain't
type of
gold
bitches you
steak.
and a whole wine bottle, a whole wine
I
bottle.
never, you never know. I never know. Like I couldn't give you a. You know,
Gold steak is
I love my
fucking
girlfriend.
insane.
I love
Okay,
my
That's great. 24 karat gold steak.
it's fucking insane.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Like they bring the nigga out who goddamn.
That's what I'm saying. The
Gold
nigga
steak.
in and out like the
Goddamn.
fire, whole fire. Damn near the.
They
oven
shut the
out
lights
here, like,
off in the whole goddamn venue. The
be like-
music
I be
start
like-
playing.
Damn.
No, but I think I don't do it because okay, so like I don't think Ubers or dinner.
I don't
is
think that
tricking.
counts as
No,
tricking.
okay, eliminate that. Now here's what's tricking is okay. Yo, let's go shopping.
That's a form of it.
Here's some. What do you mean? That's
what?
tricking.
That's one form. It's a lot of tricking.
Oh, it's
Okay,
a
no,
lot,
there's a
yeah,
lot. Yeah,
yeah,
of course.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
definitely one form. Or like, I
so
think
you never. So okay.
me personally flying out is crazy.
Wait,
Paying for flights is
You
crazy.
think
Me
so?
personally playing flights
bro.
is crazy.
Wait, you gotta be
I am
honest.
not
You're not-
Delta.
I know you're not being honest
I'm
with
not.
us. You're not being
bro,
honest with
I'm
us.
being
Real on here, bro.
honest, bro. Flying somebody out is insane.
You never did it?
Never.
All right. So what about the whole messing with chicken? It's like, hey, God, baby, my rent is
Bro, I'm glad you brought that up. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I actually have a story time. Crazy
Uh-huh.
story time.
All right,
Okay.
all right,
I got. I'm gonna say about the rent thing. First of all, I've never. I'm looking at all three cameras when I say this. I've never, ever, have visited a fucking city to where a large majority, like Atlanta, a lot of people are looking to get their rent paid, and it's actually fucking crazy.
Bro.
absolutely crazy.
A long time ago when I first moved here, bro, the shit blew my fucking mind. I was laying in bed with some girl, bro. Laying in bed, as I'm about to go to sleep, she says, "Why the fuck am I even here?" I said, "Wait, hold on, wait. What you mean? Like, what you mean?" She was like, "I came all the way to your crib, and I could have been with some niggas that was at the club just now that had richer millies, and they willing to pay my rent." I said, "Yo, if you want to go, like, you can go." So that was an alley-oop for me to pay her rent.
How long do y'all know each other?
Did she wait? Did she?
Bro,
wait, did she
I
go?
barely know this bitch.
So, don't play the whole thing, but you kind of get the gist of the conversation. To me, it just sounds unbelievable that you would want to invite somebody that you don't know on a holiday somewhere. It's one thing to invite somebody on a date to go for dinner or something, or to go for drinks. That's already a bit nerve-wracking to go for the stranger somewhere and having to sit face to face with them and try and strike up some sort of conversation, some sort of familiarity. To pay for somebody's plane ticket to come and meet you is incredibly presumptuous, because there is a lot of this kind of conversation on social at the moment of, women feeling like guys go into, meets with women and feel like they are entitled to certain things. But let's be honest. Let's be really honest. If you're a dude, if a dude invites you out to a holiday somewhere and you accept, you can't blame him for thinking he thinks that you also want to smash. It's obviously unhinged to think that, but if you actually decide, a grown-up, right, if you're over the age of 21, 25 years old, and you actually agree to let some stranger pay for your flight ticket and to pay for your stay, to give you a fucking stipend or whatever it may be, and whatever it may be, and take you all over the place and buy you stuff, you can't be angry if that person expects some sexual favors back. So in my head, I'm thinking, if you're a woman, why would you agree to that if you're not ready for that sort of thing? It just doesn't make any sense. You're better off if you want to maybe try and fleece the guy and get him to buy you things from afar. Fair enough, do what you need to do, but agreeing to dates like in that way is strange. In the boy's point of view, and the guy's point of view is even weird, because for me, if I'm interested in somebody, I don't want it to start from a point of them liking me only because I have money. Like, that would be the worst place to start from, personally speaking. And again, maybe it's my upbringing, because I come from a place where we were, it was encouraged to go and talk to girls in the street and try and get their numbers. It was encouraged to kind of do that. And back then we had absolutely no money in our pockets. We just had a smile, and sometimes a smile wouldn't get you anywhere, especially when you were like 16 and you were competing with guys that were like 19 coming to your school and bagging all your fucking girls in your school and coming back in cars and in motorbikes and stuff. You were just thinking, fuck, here you were in a bus with your shitty fucking school uniform on, and this kid from college was driving up in his fucking, you know, Ford Focus or some shit. It was awful. But still, you competed in that same level, right? But you didn't try and fake the funk and pretend you had money, because you didn't. So when you did end up getting somebody to actually be interested in you and give you some time, maybe want to hang out, maybe going to go to cinema with you, go to an arcade, it felt like the biggest victory ever, because you knew you had to really work for that. You knew that that person actually liked you as a person and giving you a chance as a human, as opposed to what's in your fucking wallet. So I can't imagine, especially now with the competition that exists out there, with the amount of ladies, with the amount of men out there, I just would never want to be in a position where I feel like this person's only talking to me because I have money. That's the only thing. The only thing I wouldn't want to do, you know? It's just something that I wouldn't want to be involved in. I want to just kind of leave that alone. But again, you know, Cenat just signed a $70 million streaming contract with Rumble. Lil Yachty's doing his thing, and he's got a lot of money, and he's got all these brand deals coming out of his ass. So these kids are like under the age of like what, 28 or some shit, and they are balling. So, you know, they've kind of grown up on social media. They're native to Instagram. They're native to Twitter and shit, Snapchat. It's probably not that big of a deal to be talking to girls from all parts of the world, right? From Israel to fucking Thailand to fucking Denmark to the UK to parts of Central America. They're probably talking to all types of people. And it probably doesn't seem like a stretch for them to be like, you know what? What's your name and date of birth? I'll buy you a plane ticket. It's probably not a stretch, but for me, it just sounds insane. It just sounds like the most insane thing I could ever even think of. So I don't know where these guys' brains go to, why they think like this, but I just would never want to be in that position where I'm starting to date somebody only because of that, because it just sounds legitimately like the most insane way to start a relationship. But again, maybe I'm the one in the wrong. Maybe I don't really know what I'm talking about. But I think if you are going to go that way, you're better off trying to get somebody to like you for who you are than tricking. Because I feel like the tricking thing, it's a slippery slope. Once you start paying for flights, there's probably no limit to stuff that you can and probably will pay for in the future. And I also think, just for the safety of the women involved, like, why would you accept that? That's such a loaded offer, you know? It comes with so many things that you probably, so many like unsaid things that you probably feel like you have to do, you know? So if I was you, I probably wouldn't do that. If you were a lady out there, I probably wouldn't. The best thing to do is probably try to get some monetary gain out of it from afar. Get them to buy you a bag, get them to fucking send you money, get them, you know what I mean? That might be good, but flights to go meet them, flights to go hang out at their house, like, that's wild. That is fucking wild. So yeah, don't do that, please. I beg of you, don't do that. There's too many psychos out there. Next on the list here, what's that shit saying? Penny love. Thank you so much. I love getting reminded of that. Penny love. Skidding all over the place trying to catch the girls down the street. Hey, come here. I promise I'm safe. Anyway, continuing. This is courtesy of Over Under. It says reportedly the born and raised Nike Dunk SB has been cancelled, will not see public release. Don't believe this, by the way. This is hobbledygook. Obviously they got cancelled because of the unfortunate passing of the born and raised founder. So RIP Spanto again. Thoughts and feelings go out to his family and friends. That was a flipping shocking bit of news that kind of crossed over my part of social media the last few weeks or so. So really I'm gutted for his family about that. So that's why these dunks were counted at the time and were paused. So big up Nike for having some moral, compass or ethics or whatever, maybe principles, whatever it is that means this shit. But I don't think they'd go as far as scrapping the whole thing. I think a good way to honor his legacy and to kind of, celebrate his life and everything that he was meant to be doing if he was still around would be to release the shoes, personally. I think that would be the best way to do it. They're probably just thinking they need to pick the right time, give it some space, And obviously they want to get the family and the friends and the whole community involved, so that's going to need them to kind of get to a better place to kind of make that worthwhile, and then it's going to release. But I don't see a future where these shoes don't release. Personally, for me, I don't see it. They're definitely going to release one way or the other. They invested a lot of time and money into these. There's a lot of demand for them, even more so now that he's unfortunately passed away. So don't expect these to not happen anytime. Not anytime soon, but they will happen. That's what I say personally. So keep an eye out for them. I think this news is just kind of presumptuous now because everybody's obviously, really flipping, cut up about Spantu's passing. But yeah, definitely they're going to come out soon. So RIP Chris Printup, aka Spantu. Gone too soon, but definitely keep an eye out for the born and raised Nike Dunk SBs. They will be coming out very, very soon. Just need to wait on it, and obviously I'm assuming they need to be doing some stuff behind the scenes to make sure the family's okay with it, and then they're going to probably end up dropping them. So don't fret on that one. And then we've got this news courtesy of Complex regarding the Cactus plant flea market Nike Airs Flea 2s, which I really like, to be fair, because they kind of remind me of that Balenciaga tire shoe that everybody wears. I forgot the name of them, but if you see them, you know what I mean. This is courtesy of Complex. So you see the pair of shoes there. They're very Marmitey, right? Very, very Marmitey. But for me, and knowing my kind of taste and liking the kind of off-road ACG type of shoe, this is definitely something that's in my kind of purview. And I was thinking about, when I was looking at these shoes, right, they kind of remind me a little bit of like a male version of a man repeller, because I think that was that blogger back in the day who used to wear some horrendous outfits, and her basically title of the blog was called Man Repeller, and the idea behind it was never to dress for the kind of male gaze. I feel like these shoes are the shoes that you'd put on if you actually don't want bitches, right? If you don't want chicks to come up to you, if you don't want attention, if you don't want girls to think you're cute, these are the shoes you wear. If you just want to be left alone to hang out with the boys, you wear these shoes, because these look absolutely ugly and awful, but also really cool in a weird type of way. So big up Cactus Plant Flea Market for always doing really interesting things. So this is courtesy of Complex. A blurb says, the next sneakers from Cactus Plant Flea Market and Nike have an inconspicuous debut last weekend at Rolling Loud Miami Festival, with Turnstile bassist Franz Lyons wearing them on stage. Turnstile set on Sunday was notable for being the first time a rock band has ever played on Rolling Loud Miami. Release info for the Cactus Plant Flea Market initially featured surfaced earlier this summer from Soul Retriever. The pair from Rolling Loud appears to be a black and alabaster colorway, which are going to be around $220. And again, look at Cactus Plant Flea Market's history. They had these fucking massive fur shoes that they put out, these dunks before. Now they've got these shoes. They've got a really good history of always having a really clever and interesting twist on sneakers, and I'm really liking what they're doing. At least they don't try and just do the really standard shit and take an Air Force One and do their own colorway. They do something a bit different, so I'm a big fan of them. It continues here. Reach for comment on the upcoming project. Nike spokesman said, we look forward to sharing more details soon. Cactus Plant Flea Market is a brainchild of elusive designer Cynthia Liu, who launched the Earthy Streetwear label in 2015. Her brand has released a handful of collaboration with Nike over the past years, starting with the Cactus Plant Vapor Max and the most recent Flea Ones, which arrived in two separate versions at the end of last year. Any more details there? No more details. So you see what you see there, two pictures of the shoes. Let me pause this, and honestly, these videos that autoplay on these websites just want to give me hell. But I really like these. I think they look really weird. They look really gargantuan. They look really ugly. They look horrendous in every way, shape, or possible. But for me, they're definitely something that I'd wear again and again and again. The interesting thing about these, if you check them closely, it looks like the swoosh is removable. It looks like, because they've always got these little additions that you can kind of take on and take off. It looks like you could take off the swoosh and put it on either side. It looks like with these little buttons. I think you could either have the swoosh kind of up top of the straps here on the right. I kind of like it, but I'm curious to know what the base model is. I'm curious to know if the base model is like a Mars Yard. Is it a GPS? Like, what is it? What is the base model of this shoe? Because I'm sure there's something as a base model underneath it, but I really do like the look of it. You got this exaggerated tire outsole going on there. You got these big, massive, really heavy duty straps on the top here. You got some buttons here. Look at you can press little badges on them, and the swoosh. You got the Flea 2 on the flipping tongue here. I really like them. Again, they're really ugly. They look awful. They're definitely not panty droppers for sure. They're panty put-oners, right? You put these on a date, and she's probably gonna run and leave the restaurant. She probably will see you through the window and just probably scream. So if you if you're trying to get some shoes that girls think they look cute, probably don't purchase these. But I really like them. I'm not going to lie. I like the look of them. I would probably end up trying to get a pair if I could. But you know how Cactus plant Flea. Actually, you know what? You never know. With these shoes being so ugly, maybe everybody might not buy them, but I've got a feeling they probably will because of the resale. But these look really cool. I really like them. So big up CP for always having some cool shit that they do with Nike. I'm absolutely loving those. Anyways, that is where we will end the Agostinho Zinga Show episode number 696. I hope you have enjoyed. For those of you who have stayed along watching, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, never a chore. Thank you for checking me out. And of course, if you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Make sure you share it with all your friends and stuff. And for real, if you have enjoyed it and you want to go an extra step further, why not leave me a 5-star review on all the podcast apps out there, such as, you know, Apple Podcasts, such as Spotify, where you listen to podcasts, such as Overcast, all these type of places. If they have a system to rate, please make sure you do that so people can see that people listen to it, and maybe that will help me get some fucking you know, what do you call it, what's that thing called, some liquid death sponsorship or something. You know what I mean? Something along that kind of lines. Who knows? Either way, thank you for tuning in to episode number 696 of the Agostinho Zinga Show. I really do appreciate every one of you for tuning in. Big up the stream chat for hanging in there with me. Thank you so much. And as per usual, I will see all of you again very, very soon. So thank you for joining in. If you listen to the audio podcast, you will hear my tune of the day playing underneath me today. So make sure you check out the audio podcast of the show so you can hear the tune of the day. And I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Take care. Be safe, everybody. Peace.